If you feel like you are lacking inspiration at the moment, today's morning ritual is definitely for you. I've been speaking to quite a few clients, and it's been my own experience that, this time of pandemic when we're being invited to cocoon was originally feeling like an opportunity to self nurture, to almost create a retreat space at home. And then for many of us, it's now starting to feel a little bit oppressive. And that was the exact word a client of mine used on a group coaching call we had last night. She said, I feel oppressed. Now I'm like, this whole opportunity to nurture myself seems to have become oppressive. And I really related. And if any of you, hello, everyone joining. Hi, Mandy. Hello. Hi, yes, good to have you. Um, hey, Tony. So if any of you are having that experience, you're going to enjoy, I think, today's morning ritual. And yeah, as I was beginning to say, if you caught my self-love wisdom conversation on Friday afternoon last week, this was actually kind of coming up then. It was the topic then, and it seems to be something that's becoming, there's a little bit of a pattern happening here in my own life and in the lives of my clients. So I'm excited to share today's ritual with you because I really want to support you in bringing back that feeling of inspiration into your life, because there's nothing worse, is there, than feeling a bit dull and blunt and listless and yeah, just lacking kind of joy, right? Yeah. So who's over on Facebook? I can see lots of eyes, but I don't know who you are. So if you just want to say hi so I know who's tuning in, that would be awesome. And then we'll dive straight in. And before we dive in, I always like to know how you guys are feeling, because that's the key to every morning ritual, I believe, is to start off asking yourself, how do I feel and what do I need? Hello, Hattie. Hi, honey. Good to have you. Yeah, so how do I feel? What do I need? So how are you guys feeling at the moment? Are you relating with what I'm sharing about this concept of sort of lacking inspiration? Are you there? Are you with me? I'm actually all right at the moment, but last week I was feeling this, and my solution to it was all around giving myself permission to receive more pleasure, more joy, more fun. That felt really important, and it worked. Ellen, good morning from Philadelphia. Hello. Yeah, hey Ellen. It must be, what time is it for you there, honey? It's got to be, what is it, like the middle of the night? Crazy, crazy. Okay, so yeah, so I was having this conversation with a client last night, and it just felt so pertinent that I wanted to bring it forward to today's morning ritual. And I wanted to do it in such a way as to share some questions with you that you can write in your journal, and that can become a little an opportunity for you to dive a little deeper into yourself and what's going on for you around your ability to receive pleasure. Good morning, Lindy. Because here's my experience, and I wonder if you can relate. We're energetic beings, right? And so I believe we thrive on feeling energies, all different types of energies. It kind of keeps us vibrant and alive and stimulated. And I feel like stimulated is my word du jour at the moment. I find that I live in, quiet, rural, countryside Sussex. It's very beautiful. And there are different types of stimulation here for sure that I get from being in nature. And I have a regular practice of getting on the train, getting dressed up, because in Sussex, we wear wellies and trainers and go for walks in the woods, So I like the opportunity to put a pair of heels on, to wear a dress, get on the train, get amongst the kind of the buzz of people and urban life, go up to London, perhaps go to a bar, meet my friends. I host live events up there, all sorts of stuff. But it just, I might go to a gallery viewing, and it's stimulating. It stimulates my senses. And I feel like I'm missing that at the moment. I'm not getting to do that. And I know the clients I was talking to last night were having the same experience. And so this time of cocooning is, I feel, for many of us, bringing that into awareness. It's showing us how we are used to getting our stimulation, and perhaps offering us an opportunity to find different ways of receiving that stimulation. And I think self-love is always inviting us to find what we need within ourselves. So the invitation becomes, if you're feeling lacking in inspiration at the minute, I would suggest there's something around you're not feeling particularly stimulated. And so how can you create that feeling within to fire up and kind of juice up and bring back your inspiration? And I believe we can create that stimulation from within through giving ourselves permission to embrace pleasure, to really hook into our desires and tune in to what today, what this week would feel pleasurable for me. How can I create that experience for myself? How can I stimulate myself from the inside out? Does that make sense? To then allow the inspiration to come back. There's nothing to do in terms of getting your inspiration back. I really believe it's an experience of receiving what feels good for you. So I'm going to ask you these questions. Hi, June. Hi, Sam. Ellen saying it's 3:30 in the morning. Oh my God. Woman, what are you doing awake? I was up at 2 this morning. I set my alarm for 2 to get up for the dog, and then again at 5:30. So I'm a bit like bleary-eyed. Charlotte, hello. Suzanne, exactly what I'm missing. Stimulation. Yeah, right? So good. Okay, so it's not just me. And it's not just my client last night. And yeah, so I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm going to invite you to explore this concept of stimulation and pleasure. And I'm excited for the client that I coached around this last night, because this is like a little piece of homework that can help her go a little bit deeper with the self-inquiry around this. What we discovered is there was an understanding that tapping into her desires, tapping into what was pleasurable for her, was like the brain said, yeah, like that makes sense, of course. But there wasn't a habit of giving herself permission to do it. And there wasn't a habit of giving herself permission to do it for extended periods of time. And what we noticed as well was that she had given herself a couple of days last week and a day the week before of allowing herself days of I'm just going to do what feels good for me. I had a day of that myself last week. And it definitely shifts things. Last week I was feeling dull. I had a day of feeling into what was pleasurable, only doing what felt good and pleasurable. And the next day I felt more invigorated and inspired. So we know it works. But we discovered this pattern of there was like a scarcity mentality around pleasure. There was a lid on it. It was almost like a belief that there wasn't an abundant flow of it, that there was a limitation to it. And she was actually subconsciously creating the limitation. So subconsciously, she was like, well, I've had some pleasure, and now it's time to like crack on and get on with life. It's like I had some, and that's enough. And almost like a belief, very deep conditioning. I'm not allowed to have any more. Like I've had enough. Maybe I was even a little bit greedy. Maybe I had too much because I had 2 days of it last week. So maybe that's enough for now. And we noticed that for the last couple of days, she'd been really self-sabotaging to the degree that, she hadn't that day even eaten her breakfast until 2 in the afternoon. Sounds really basic, but she was uncomfortable and starving. And not, she didn't feel good. She felt lightheaded. She didn't feel energized to be able to do what she wanted to do that day because she hadn't had breakfast. So basic. But what we discovered was that she was depriving herself on a very subconscious level. There was a messaging going on. I've had enough pleasure. I've taken care of myself enough. I've had enough joy. So now I need to kind of like balance the scales and return back to that kind of place of struggle, that place of scarcity, that place of feeling like it's not really meant for me. There's not enough for me. And so she was suffering. And it's very subtle, very subtle. It's very easy to just kind of go, oh yeah, I didn't have breakfast today. But we could see that it was almost like she was disciplining herself. She was punishing herself because she'd already had pleasure. And yet she was feeling uninspired. and desiring to get the inspiration back. And our sense was, together we agreed that she was only scratching the surface in terms of the level of pleasure she really needed. And so it was an invitation to go deeper into that. And I wonder if you can relate to that, because I think we do live in a society that is geared up to, we've kind of got this voice that says, I can do something nice for myself if I've worked really hard first. I can do something nice for myself. I can receive pleasure. I could have a day off if I've earned it. And until I've earned it, I don't get that day off. And if I take the day off or receive the pleasure, somehow I'm going to have to balance out the scales and suffer again as a result. Hattie's agreeing. Yeah, it's pretty rubbish, isn't it, that we do this to ourselves? It's just a habit of behavior, and habits can be changed. That's the good news. So the first journaling question, by the way, the reason I'm giving you these questions and we're having this conversation today as part of our morning ritual is because I really want to invite you this week to create a practice of bringing more pleasure into your life. I want you to start that today, and I invite you to continue that through the week and explore this concept of pleasure. Allow that for yourself. I think we've reached a time of this pandemic. We realized, I was speaking with my sister in Australia yesterday, their kids go back to school today. Their experience of it has been very different to ours in the UK. But I've realized I've been at home. The last trip I did was actually, very excitingly, was to New York. But that was in February. And that was the end of February, and beginning of March, I began my own cocooning, lockdown, hate the word. And I've been here all that time. It's a long time, right? It's a long time. Was that March, April, coming to the end of May? Yeah. So it feels important to reinvigorate this concept of desire and pleasure at the moment. I believe we all need it. And I believe this pandemic time is continuing to invite us to go deeper, to go within. So the morning ritual today is a line of questioning that I'm asking you to take in through the week. And I want you to write this first question down in your journal. I'd like for you today, throughout this week, to actually write a list of what brings you pleasure. Really get connected to it. Hi, Cam. Excuse me. Really get connected to what brings you pleasure. Yeah. So write all the things. There's going to be so much, so many different things. What brings you pleasure? And consider all your senses. Consider a variety of experiences. You can consider material things. You can consider food, entertainment, art, so many things. But what brings you pleasure? And start to notice as you write the list, and I invite you to write at least 50 things. If you could go to 100 things, I would really invite you to stretch yourself and go to 100. If you could move beyond 100, really, I know that you can. There's no doubt. You could write 1,000 things. I mean, really, if you decided to, you could write 1,000 things that bring you pleasure. And through that exercise, you'll start to see that it's abundant. It's limitless. There's so much available to you. There's no limit on it. There's nothing scarce about pleasure. There's more than enough to go around, and there's so much that you can receive. So to start to get into that mindset. So that's the first question. The next question is to ask yourself, where do you resist giving yourself and allowing yourself to receive pleasure? What does that look like? So in the case of my client last night, we discovered a very basic thing. She hadn't allowed herself to have breakfast that day. It was a super basic. She wasn't allowing herself to eat. So she was denying herself pleasure just through not having breakfast that day. How do you do that to yourself? How do you deny yourself or resist receiving pleasure? Yeah. How do you deprive yourself? How do you, maybe that could be a separate question actually. So why don't we make the second question, how do you resist giving yourself and allowing yourself to receive pleasure? And then the third question could be very specifically, how do you deprive yourself of pleasure? What do you do to discipline yourself? because maybe you think you've had too much. And it could just be the way you have the conversation in your head. Cynthia from Sydney, hello. Oh, I love Sydney. My home. Do you know that? Do you know that's where I'm from, is Sydney? Yeah. Yeah. And then question 4 is, how can I create pleasure in my day-to-day this week? Yeah. How can I create pleasure in my day-to-day this week? What might that look like? Because I think it really helps us. And I think this is our masculine energy supporting our feminine energy. Our masculine intellect, remember, our masculine lives in the brain, gets to write a list. Our masculine energy loves to write a list, loves to think things through. Write a list of all the things that bring you pleasure. And by the way, the hint is you began writing that list in question 1. But look at specifically today and specifically this week. From that list, what could you bring into your life today and bring into your life this week to bring you pleasure? And the reason I'm asking you to do that is because you then kind of, that homework is done and you don't have to figure it out. Because if you're not in the habit of creating pleasure in your day-to-day, if it feels really weird and clunky to commit to a day of pleasure and then you're kind of looking around like, well, oh, I don't even know where to begin because it's so unfamiliar, then you've got your list to refer to. It's like, oh, well, I like having baths with candles, and I like going for a walk in the woods, and I like having a few extra biscuits, and I like to hang out with the cat, and I like to take a nap in the afternoon. You've got that list of what's practically possible for you to create for yourself this week. What's practically possible for you to create for yourself this week. And you can just choose a couple of things off the list. I'm going to do those today. That's your masculine supporting your feminine energy, because the feminine, she resides in the body. The home of the feminine is her body. She is all about receiving pleasure. If she's not practiced at it, if it's not second nature, she might just need to refer back to that list. Yeah, so that's you supporting yourself. And here's the thing. We started this whole conversation around, are you feeling inspired at the moment or not? It's the feminine that is inspired. It's the feminine energy that receives the divine downloads, the divine inspiration that's fully aligned with the truth of you. Unless we're hooked into pleasure and allowing ourselves to receive that, and we're connected to the truth that it is abundant and unlimited, which inspiration is as well, it's really hard to move into an inspired place and to live inspired. Does that make sense? All right, so just to recap the 4 questions you're going to have as part of your journaling practice this week. The first question is, write that exhaustive list, which you can never exhaust. Go to 1,000 things if you can. All the different things that bring you pleasure. All sorts of stuff. Yeah. Question 2, where do you resist giving and allowing yourself to receive pleasure? Where in your life do you do that? Question 4, how do you specifically deprive yourself of pleasure? Notice your patterns of behavior. What do you do to kind of discipline yourself? To make sure you don't have too much. Keep a cap on it. And question 4, how can I create pleasure in my day-to-day life this week? And just from that alone, just from that conversation we've just had, I would love for you to just type into the comments now at least one thing that you're going to commit to doing this week to allow yourself to receive the experience of pleasure, knowing full well that as you create pleasure for yourself, more pleasure will be created. It's like this abundant thing that just more and more keeps happening. So you start with one thing and then more will build and more will build, and it'll just become this, the energy of pleasure will become your day-to-day experience. And from there, inspiration arrives. So what are you going to do this week to receive pleasure? I'm going to take most of today off work. It happens to be a public holiday, but I don't tend to adhere to public holidays. Being self-employed, running my own business, I work when it feels good, and I kind of ignore what day of the week it is and whether it's public holiday or not. But I'm going to hang out with my son today, which will be lovely, and have some time, just the 2 of us. I'm going to play with the puppy, who's coming along beautifully. Hang out with my husband. I'm definitely going to enjoy some sunshine, might get out in the garden for a bit. All of these things bring me so much pleasure. Fee, hello Fee, how are you doing? Walking in different places in my area. Yeah, isn't that great? And right there is that stimulating as well, isn't it? Because you're not just doing the same walk day in, day out, right? There's quite a few people on this live, and I would like to hear from you what you're going to commit to this week in terms of pleasure. Hattie, I'm going to go and read in the park with a picnic for just me on a new picnic blanket. See, isn't that beautiful? I love that. I love how you've even said on a new picnic blanket. I love that. Yeah, read in the park with a picnic just for me. It's so beautiful. How often do we just allow ourselves to stop and read a book? It's so basic, isn't it? It's just, but it's so delicious. Shala, hello. Walking in the woods. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Fee, good, thanks. So lovely to see you. Your puppy is so cute. I love the pictures. Yeah, he is a cutie, isn't he? Yeah. Ellen, I will take dancing lessons online. Brilliant. Watch sunrises, connect with family, work on my garden, and eat outside. Oh, delicious. Isn't that beautiful? And what that brings to mind for me as well is there might be some pieces here that you're already doing in the day to day, but maybe you haven't actually taken the moment to just stop and consciously connect with the truth that you are receiving pleasure in that moment, that what's happening in this moment is a pleasurable experience, and allow yourself to acknowledge the pleasure, acknowledge how you receive the pleasure, and acknowledge that you're giving yourself that permission, which is a big freaking deal. Yeah. So in the day-to-day stuff that we do, that we're kind of like, yeah, I like doing that, but I don't really think about it. I don't really consider that I like it. I don't acknowledge it. When we're not acknowledging what brings us pleasure, we're not creating the habit of receiving the pleasure. Does that make sense? We're not fully receiving it. It's a bit like writing a gratitude list, which I definitely recommend doing as a daily practice. But it's like, I'm just going to write the list of gratitudes, but you don't feel it. So many clients have said to me, yeah, Katie, I write the gratitude list, but I don't feel it. Well, you got to take a beat with the gratitudes and you write it and take a minute to breathe that in and breathe in the experience, receive the gratitude. That's what the feminine would do. Excuse me. Do you know what I mean? Receive it. It's really important rather than just doing it. The doing of the stuff that feels good for you is the masculine. The feminine will take a moment to acknowledge that this feels really pleasurable. It's really lovely. And she'll allow herself to receive it. Liz is buying more plants, listening to music, and sitting under a tree every day. And maybe hugging the tree as well, Liz. I know you've come to love hugging the odd tree every now and then. I love that. That's so beautiful. Fee, wow, these are amazing. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, thanks everybody for sharing. Beautiful. So good. So I hope that sets you up for the week ahead. We've got a couple minutes left. Shall we do a card? Shall I do a quick Wild Kuan Yin Oracle card? Yeah? See what the Wild Kuan Yin has to say to us. Here we are. Mandy's saying, I'm going to wear lipstick and wear pretty clothes to remind myself I am a woman first. Divine. Yes, I love that. That's so beautiful. That's really inspiring. Lindy's saying, I'd love to receive a deep meditation and float away. Well, you have full permission to create that for yourself, Lindy. Yeah. And just, yeah, I like how you've written the word, I'd love to receive a deep meditation. That's so nice. That's such a shift, isn't it? From doing a meditation, you're allowing yourself to receive it. Yeah, I love that. All right, let's see what Wild Kuan Yin has for us to wrap up this morning's morning ritual. Okay, let's see. All right, Shala, love it, and I missed it for a while. Yeah, walking in the woods. I get you. Okay. Anchor to fly. Yeah. You'll see that? Anchor to fly. No, number 23. Let's see. Bear with, bear with. Okie dokie. Anchor to fly. Your dreams of taking flight, of living with a heart free to soar, your whole being unfettered by restraint as you rise up to meet your destiny. You yearn to experience the next exhilarating level of your life, something even more beautiful, wonderful, and uplifting than what has been. And so you shall. I'm here to help anchor your growth so that your highest aspirations can be seeded in this earthly world, transforming your hopes into reality, ensuring practical success for even your most transcendent, spiritually inspired visions. So the guidance is saying, trying to escape the world by hovering above it doesn't help us bring our dreams to life. Fantasies where the mind takes flight can become the seeds of truly inspired ideas. But to transform those inspirations into reality, we need to be grounded. What this means is putting in the time and effort for taking practical steps towards our goals. I feel like we had this card last week. Did we? And I love this because it's speaking about inspiration and how we have to take practical steps towards our goals. And genuinely, like, these questions I'm giving you are practical steps to help to connect you in with inspiration. That does not include attempting to control the timing of how and when the events in our life unfold. It does include completing tasks to the best of our ability and consciously choosing to let go if we find we are trying to force something to happen. Trusting in the loving genius of a great and benevolent universe that wants our divine fulfillment to manifest. When we do everything within our power to succeed whilst dropping all attachment, we are grounded and can fly successfully. Without the effort, we waft away from the earth like a lost kite. Without detachment, we cannot rise from the earth. We become weighed down by a distrustful need to control. We need the combination of effort and letting go with trust to become anchored enough to truly fly. Your heart is ready for this unconditional trust and the sense of lightness, freedom, and joy it brings. Yeah, Lindsay's saying we did have it last week. Yeah, isn't that interesting? And Amanda's saying, yeah, we had it a while ago. Yeah, okay, well, so let's just recap. Apparently, we need this again. Have confidence in yourself and your work, in what you're capable of doing in the physical world. The desires you wish to manifest are placed in your heart for good reason. To bring them to life requires that you use all your skills and abilities. Don't pull back from the challenge of that growth. You're capable of success. You just need to keep applying yourself to the practical matter of taking one step after another. You're about to reach a new level in your life. You may soon feel like you're flying. This is good, but make sure to stay grounded, humble, and practical in your day-to-day pursuits. This will help you fly further for longer. I love that. And that's why I love daily practices and daily rituals, because it does help us to stay grounded and humble and practical in our day-to-day pursuits. Yeah, I love that. June got this card yesterday. Did you? You've got this pack. Amazing. So the healing process, shall we do that? We've got a couple of minutes left. So just take a moment, ladies and gents, if there's a couple of gents left on the call. Just close your eyes. Notice the weight of your body as you stand or sit quietly. Feel the weight of the organs in your body, the warmth of your blood in your veins, the beating of your heart. You might feel that more easily by placing your hand firmly over the left side of your upper chest. Breathe in and out with several relaxing breaths as you simply connect with your body. And say aloud, so you can repeat after me. I call upon the blessings, protection, and intervention of Kuan Yin, who loves me without condition. Bless me with your wild grace to dig deep and reach high as I manifest my destiny. I trust in the laws of the natural world and understand the process of growth. I am grounded and anchored to the earth, so many types of beauty can come to life through my body and soul. Through your divine grace and my own free will, so be it. And you've completed your healing process. Beautiful. So, ladies, my invitation to you this week to bring back inspiration into your life is to prioritize pleasure. Prioritize pleasure. And self love is self responsibility. And so, you are always going to be invited to dig a little deeper and heal anything that is standing in the way between you and your ability to give yourself permission to receive pleasure. Hence the journaling questions that I've shared with you. Yeah, that's the practical stuff. We gotta do the practical stuff to heal, to overcome our humanness, and to receive the experience that we're here to receive. Yeah, beautiful. So good to have you all. Liz is saying, yes, there's been a lot of tree hugging going on. So good. Okay, lovely to be joined by all of you. Thank you for being here. I really honor you. I don't take it lightly. Your time and energy and effort to show up for live sessions like this doesn't go unnoticed. And life sees you too, okay? Life sees you. The universe sees you. The universe has eyes and ears, and you showing up like this, your commitment to yourself will have ripple effects. And life will start to move and arrange and reorganize around you to create what you desire because you're showing up for yourself. So it's super cool that you've been here. Thank you for coming. And I'll see as many of you as possible, I hope, on Wednesday at 12 o'clock. We'll do a Q&A. If you have a question for me, I think I might already have the question I'm going to be answering this week, but it doesn't mean I can't receive more questions, and they'll get answered as and when. So if you've got a question for me, just ping it over. And there's so many different ways you can connect with me. And yeah, I look forward to spending some more time with you later this week. Love you all. You're welcome, everyone. Mwah. See you later. Have a great day and have a great week. Bye.